The hum started softly, almost like the distant buzz of a bee. At first, no one paid much attention to it. People in Chicago were used to noise, the constant rumble of cars, the chatter of crowds, and the occasional roar of an airplane overhead. But this sound was different. It grew louder, deeper, until it seemed to vibrate through every surface, every bone. Windows rattled, dogs howled, and even the wind seemed to pause as if unsure what to do next. In the heart of the city, Alex Carter tightened his grip on the wrench he was holding. He had been fixing a broken-down truck in his garage when the strange noise began. His hands were smudged with grease, but he stopped working and stepped outside to see what was happening. The streets were already filling with people pointing upward, their faces pale with confusion and fear. High above the towering skyscrapers, something enormous loomed against the sky. It was a ship, though calling it that felt inadequate. The vessel stretched wider than several football fields combined, its metallic surface gleaming like liquid silver under the sunlight. Strange symbols etched into its hull pulsed faintly, casting eerie shadows over the city below. For a moment, everything went silent, not just the hum, but also the usual sounds of life. Then, a voice boomed, deep and mechanical, echoing across the entire city. "We come seeking resources, not conflict," the voice said. "Cooperate, and harm will not come to you." Alex frowned, his stomach twisting with unease. He wasn't sure why, but the words didn't sit right with him. They sounded calm, reasonable even, but there was something cold about them, like they came from someone who didn't really care whether humans cooperated or not. Around him, people whispered nervously, some clutching their phones to record the scene while others simply stared in stunned silence. Not far away, Emma Ross was doing exactly that. A journalist known for her knack for uncovering hidden truths, she stood at the edge of Millennium Park, her camera trained on the massive craft. Her dark hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and her sharp eyes scanned the crowd for reactions. She could feel the tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. This wasn't just some random event. It was history unfolding in front of her, and she intended to document every second of it. As the ship hovered motionless, smaller vessels detached from its underside and descended toward the ground. These crafts were sleek and black, blending seamlessly into the shadowy corners of the city. When they landed, tall figures emerged. The aliens, if that's what they were, looked vaguely humanoid, but their translucent skin shimmered faintly, revealing glimpses of glowing veins beneath. Their movements were deliberate, almost hypnotic, as if they moved to a rhythm only they could hear. Emma quickly snapped photos, her mind racing with questions. Who were these beings? What did they want with Earth? And why now? She noticed a group of government officials approaching the nearest alien figure, likely trying to establish communication. Something told her this meeting wouldn't go smoothly. Meanwhile, Alex decided to head home. As he walked, he couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was brewing. Sure, the aliens claimed they weren't here for war, but their tone suggested otherwise. Resources, they'd said. What kind of resources? And what would happen if humans refused to give them up? By the time Alex reached his apartment, the news channels were already buzzing with speculation. Some experts called it humanity's greatest opportunity. Others warned of impending doom. Sitting on his couch, Alex sighed and rubbed his temples. Whatever was coming, he knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, the city felt different. The usual bustle of Chicago had slowed to a crawl, replaced by an eerie quietness. People moved cautiously, their eyes darting upward every few seconds, as if expecting the massive alien ship to descend even lower. News reports played nonstop on every screen, showing footage of the towering vessel and replaying the alien's message. Asterisk, we come seeking resources, not conflict. Asterisk, but those words offered little comfort. At Millennium Park, a group of government officials gathered nervously under the watchful gaze of the extraterrestrials. The aliens who called themselves the Vorin stood in a perfect line, their glowing forms casting faint light across the grass. Their leader, Kale, stepped forward. His presence was commanding, though his expression remained unreadable. He spoke again, his voice calm but firm. "We require specific minerals found within your planet's crust," Kale explained. "These materials are vital for our survival. We assure you, we mean no harm to your species." Emma Ross adjusted her camera lens, capturing every detail of the encounter. She noticed how the humans hesitated, unsure whether to trust these visitors or prepare for the worst. One official, a middle-aged man with thinning hair, cleared his throat before speaking. "What guarantees do we have that you'll leave once you've taken what you need?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Kale tilted his head, as if puzzled by the question. "Your cooperation is essential," he replied. "Resistance will only delay the inevitable. Once we have secured the necessary resources, we will depart." Emma frowned. The way Kale spoke made it sound like Earth's resources were theirs for the taking, regardless of human consent. She zoomed in on the alien leader's face, searching for any sign of emotion. There was none. It was as if the Vorin viewed humanity not as equals but as obstacles, or worse, irrelevant. Nearby, Alex Carter watched the scene unfold on a small TV at a diner. He sipped his coffee, which had gone cold, while listening to snippets of conversation around him. Some patrons argued that the aliens might bring advanced technology, while others muttered about invasion and destruction. Alex didn't know which side to believe, but he couldn't ignore the unease gnawing at him. Something about the Vorin's detached attitude bothered him deeply. Later that day, Emma decided to dig deeper. She tracked down rumors of strange activity near one of Chicago's industrial zones. Armed with her camera and notebook, she drove to the location. What she found shocked her. Massive machines, clearly not of human design, were already at work, tearing through the earth with terrifying efficiency. The ground looked scared, raw, as if it had been clawed apart by some monstrous beast. Nearby, Vorin workers supervised the operation without so much as a glance at the devastation they were causing. Emma snapped photos furiously, her hands shaking. She approached one of the Vorin cautiously, hoping to get answers. "Why are you doing this here?" she asked, her voice steady despite her nerves. The alien turned to her, its translucent skin shimmering faintly. "This area contains valuable deposits," it said simply. "It serves no other purpose." Emma's heart sank. Served no other purpose. This part of the city was home to parks, wildlife, and countless families. How could the Vorin dismiss it so easily? She backed away, realizing she needed help to expose the truth. That evening, Emma met Alex by chance at a local cafe. Both were exhausted, nursing cups of coffee as they compared notes. When Emma showed Alex her photos of the mining site, his jaw tightened. "They're not just taking what they need," he said grimly. "They're wrecking everything in their path." Emma nodded. "And nobody's stopping them. Not yet, anyway." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Alex leaned forward, his voice low and determined. "If no one else is going to do something about this, maybe we should." Emma raised an eyebrow. "You and me." "Why not?" Alex shrugged. "We can't just sit back and let them destroy everything." Emma hesitated, then nodded slowly. Together, they began brainstorming ideas, unaware that their decision would set them on a dangerous path, one that would test their courage, resilience, and faith in humanity itself. By the third day, Alex and Emma had already fallen into a rhythm. They spent hours poring over maps, news reports, and the photos Emma had taken of the Vorin mining sites. The more they learned, the clearer it became that the aliens weren't just extracting resources, they were leaving destruction in their wake. Entire neighborhoods near the industrial zones had been evacuated, and stories of environmental damage were starting to surface online. Rivers ran murky with silt, trees were uprooted, and wildlife seemed to vanish overnight. But Alex and Emma knew they couldn't tackle this alone. They needed help, someone who could understand the technology the Vorin were using and maybe even find a way to fight back. That's when Emma remembered Jason Lee, a college dropout she'd interviewed months ago for a story about hacking. Jason wasn't your typical tech genius. He was awkward, quiet, and preferred working out of his cluttered basement. But he was brilliant, especially when it came to reverse engineering gadgets. They found him hunched over a desk littered with wires, circuit boards, and half-empty soda cans. His dark hair stuck up in messy tufts, and his glasses were smudged with fingerprints. When Emma explained what they needed, Jason's eyes lit up, not with fear, but excitement. "You're telling me there are actual alien machines out there?" he asked, grinning. "I'm in." With Jason on board, the trio began gathering intelligence. Using hacked surveillance drones, they tracked the Vorin's movements across the city. What they discovered was alarming. Mining operations weren't limited to Chicago. They were happening worldwide. From the Amazon rainforest to the Australian outback, the Vorin were stripping Earth of its resources at an alarming rate. Each site showed the same pattern: massive machines tearing through the land, leaving behind barren wastelands. One night, while analyzing footage from a drone, Jason froze. "Wait, rewind that," he said, pointing at the screen. Alex leaned closer, squinting at the image. Among the chaos of the mining site, something caught his eye: a small device mounted on a tripod, emitting a faint blue glow. "What is that thing?" Emma asked. Jason tapped furiously at his keyboard, zooming in on the object. "I don't know yet, but it's definitely not part of their mining equipment. It's doing something else." Determined to find out, Alex suggested they get closer. The next evening, under the cover of darkness, the three snuck toward one of the mining sites. The air smelled of dirt and smoke, and the ground vibrated with the constant rumble of machinery. Keeping low, they crept past rows of towering alien vehicles until they reached the glowing device. Alex knelt beside it, inspecting it carefully. The machine hummed softly, its surface etched with strange symbols similar to those on the Vorin ship. Before he could touch it, a voice startled them. "What are you doing here?" They spun around to see a woman standing a few feet away. She wore camouflage pants and a leather jacket, her sharp brown eyes scanning them suspiciously. Her name was Rachel Monroe, a former soldier who had left the military after growing disillusioned with orders that didn't align with her morals. "We're trying to figure out what these aliens are really up to," Alex said cautiously. "Who are you?" Rachel crossed her arms. "Let's just say I've been watching them too. And if you're planning to stop them, you'll need someone who knows how to handle herself in a fight." After a tense moment, Alex nodded. "Fine. You're in." Back at Jason's basement, the group examined the device more closely. Jason hooked it up to his computer, running scans and decoding its functions. Hours later, he looked up, his face pale. "This isn't just a mining tool," he said. "It's altering the environment, changing soil composition, disrupting ecosystems. If they keep using these things, entire regions could become uninhabitable." Emma clenched her fists. "We have to warn people. Show them what's really happening." Alex shook his head. "No one will believe us unless we show them proof. And even then, they might not act. We need to hit them where it hurts, sabotage their operations." Rachel cracked a small smile. "Now you're talking." As the group planned their first move, none of them realized how far they would have to go, or how much they would risk, to protect their planet. The group spent the next few days preparing for their first sabotage mission. Alex, Emma, Jason, and Rachel worked tirelessly in Jason's basement, piecing together makeshift tools and gadgets from scraps of alien tech they'd scavenged during their earlier reconnaissance. Jason was in his element, wiring circuits and programming devices, while muttering under his breath about reverse engineering. Rachel cleaned and modified old weapons she brought with her, ensuring they could at least slow down the Vorin if things went wrong. Alex focused on planning their approach, studying maps of the mining sites to find the best entry points. Emma, meanwhile, used her journalist skills to spread awareness online, sharing carefully edited videos and photos of the environmental damage caused by the Vorin. Their target was a mining site located just outside the city limits. It was one of the smaller operations, but it housed several of the mysterious glowing devices that Jason had identified as environmental disruptors. If they could destroy even one of these machines, it might buy them time to figure out a larger plan. On the night of the mission, the air was thick with tension. The four of them drove in silence, the only sound coming from the hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of the radio. When they arrived, they parked a safe distance away and approached on foot. The mining site loomed ahead, bathed in an eerie blue light cast by the towering alien machinery. The ground beneath their feet felt unstable, churned up by the relentless digging. "This is it," Alex whispered, crouching behind a pile of rubble. "Stick to the plan. We get in, disable the device, and get out before anyone notices." Rachel nodded, gripping her weapon tightly. "Let's move." They crept through the shadows, avoiding the bright beams of light cast by the Vorin workers overseeing the operation. These aliens moved with mechanical precision, paying little attention to their surroundings. To them, humans were insignificant, just another part of the landscape to be ignored. That arrogance worked in the group's favor. Jason reached the device first, pulling out his toolkit and getting to work. His hands moved quickly, his fingers deftly manipulating wires and circuits. Emma kept watch, her heart pounding as she scanned the area for any sign of trouble. Nearby, Alex and Rachel stood ready to defend him if needed. "How much longer?" Alex hissed after a few minutes. "Almost done," Jason replied, his voice barely audible. "Just need to reroute the power flow." Suddenly, a low whirring noise filled the air. A Vorin patrol unit appeared around the corner, their glowing forms unmistakable in the dim light. One of them tilted its head, its translucent skin shimmering as it locked onto the intruders. "We've got company," Emma hissed, ducking behind a piece of machinery. Rachel stepped forward, raising her weapon. "I'll hold them off. Finish the job." Without hesitation, she fired, the blast striking the nearest Vorin and sending it stumbling backward. The others reacted instantly, moving toward her with alarming speed. Alex joined the fight, using a metal pipe to fend off one of the aliens while Rachel continued firing. Sparks flew as energy blasts collided with debris, lighting up the night. "Got it," Jason shouted, slamming the final switch. The glowing device shuddered violently before exploding in a burst of blue light. The entire site seemed to shake, and alarms began blaring loudly. "Time to go," Alex yelled, grabbing Jason's arm and pulling him toward the exit. Emma sprinted ahead, guiding them through the chaos. Behind them, the Vorin regrouped, their cold voices overlapping in what sounded like anger. The group didn't look back. They ran as fast as they could, adrenaline pushing them forward until they reached the safety of their vehicle. As they sped away, none of them spoke. They were too shaken, too aware of how close they'd come to being caught. But despite the danger, there was a spark of hope. For the first time since the Vorin arrived, someone had struck back, and they weren't about to stop now. The aftermath of the sabotage mission left the group both exhilarated and uneasy. They had struck a blow against the Vorin, but they knew it was only a small victory in a much larger battle. The aliens weren't going to back down easily, and their retaliation could come at any moment. Still, the success gave them a glimmer of hope, proof that humanity wasn't entirely powerless. Back at Jason's basement, the team gathered to regroup and plan their next move. Jason was hunched over his computer, analyzing data from the destroyed device. His face lit up with excitement as lines of code scrolled across the screen. "This is huge," he said, turning to the others. "These devices aren't just altering the environment. They're part of a network, a massive system designed to control Earth's weather patterns." Emma frowned. "Weather patterns? You mean like storms or droughts?" "Exactly," Jason replied. If they activate this network fully, they could trigger catastrophic events, hurricanes, floods, heat waves, anything to make the planet easier for them to exploit. Alex clenched his fists. So they're not just taking what they need. They're planning to reshape the entire planet. Rachel leaned against the wall, her arms crossed. And we thought mining was bad enough. If we don't stop them soon, there won't be much of Earth left to save. Emma nodded, her mind racing. She had been sharing fragments of their discoveries online, careful not to reveal too much about their identities. Her articles had started gaining traction, sparking protests in cities around the world. People were angry, demanding answers from their leaders. But governments remained hesitant, unwilling to provoke the Vorin directly. It was clear that if anything was going to change, it would have to come from ordinary people like them. As the group discussed their options, Rachel suddenly stiffened. "There's something I need to tell you all," she said, her voice unusually quiet. Everyone turned to look at her, sensing the weight behind her words. "I've been approached," she admitted, "by someone claiming to represent a shadowy faction within the government. They offered me a deal. Help them collaborate with the Vorin in exchange for advanced alien technology." Alex's eyes widened. "And what did you say?" Rachel hesitated before answering. "I told them no. But it made me realize something. We can't trust anyone right now, not even those who claim to be on our side. Some people are willing to sell out humanity for power." The room fell silent. Emma felt a pang of guilt. She had always believed in exposing the truth, but now she wondered if her articles were putting innocent lives at risk. What if the Vorin decided to target those speaking out against them? She glanced at Alex, who seemed lost in thought. "We stick to the plan," Alex said finally, breaking the silence. "We hit them where it hurts, destroy more of those devices, disrupt their operations, and we keep doing it until they leave." Jason nodded. "I'll keep working on cracking their systems. Maybe I can find a way to disable the whole network remotely." "But we can't do this alone," Emma added. "We need to inspire others, show them that resistance is possible." Over the next few days, the group worked tirelessly. Jason continued deciphering the alien tech, uncovering more details about the weather control network. Emma wrote another article, carefully highlighting the dangers without revealing their plans. Meanwhile, Alex and Rachel scouted new locations for sabotage missions, mapping out potential targets. One evening, as they prepared for their next operation, Alex pulled Emma aside. "You okay?" he asked, noticing the tension in her expression. She sighed. I keep thinking about how far this could go. How many people might get hurt because of us." Alex placed a hand on her shoulder. "We didn't start this fight. The Vorin did. All we're doing is standing up for what's ours. And yeah, it's dangerous. But if we don't fight, who will?" Emma managed a small smile. "You're right. Let's finish this." As the group geared up for their next mission, they knew the road ahead would be harder than ever. But they also knew one thing for certain. They couldn't give up. Not when so much was at stake. The resistance was growing, but so was the danger. Emma's latest article had gone viral, sparking protests in cities across the globe. People held up signs reading, "Earth is not yours," and "No to alien exploitation." The message was clear. Humanity wasn't going to roll over and let the Vorin take what they wanted. For the first time since the aliens' arrival, there was a sense of unity, a shared determination to fight back. But the Vorin didn't seem concerned. If anything, their operations intensified. More mining sites appeared, and the glowing devices Jason had identified as part of the weather control network began popping up in new locations. Reports of strange weather patterns started trickling in. Sudden storms, unseasonable heat waves, and rivers drying up overnight. It was as if the planet itself was groaning under the strain. Alex, Emma, Jason, and Rachel knew they couldn't afford to slow down. Their next target was a remote mining site in Siberia, one of the largest yet. Intelligence gathered by Jason suggested it housed a critical node in the weather control system, a hub that connected all the other devices. If they could destroy it, they might cripple the entire network. Getting there wouldn't be easy. The site was heavily guarded, with patrols of Vorin workers and advanced security systems. But the group had no choice. They packed their gear and boarded a small plane headed for Russia, knowing this mission would be their most dangerous yet. When they arrived, the cold hit them like a wall. Snow stretched endlessly in every direction, and the air burned their lungs with each breath. The mining site loomed ahead, a stark contrast against the white landscape. Towering machines dug into the frozen earth, their metallic surfaces gleaming under the pale sunlight. In the center of it all stood the node, a massive structure pulsing with blue light. "This is it," Alex said, his voice barely audible over the wind. "We get in, disable the node, and get out. Same plan as before." Rachel nodded, her breath forming clouds in the freezing air. "Just stay alert. These guys don't mess around." They moved cautiously, using the snowdrifts for cover. Jason carried a backpack filled with tools and explosives, his hands trembling slightly from the cold. Emma kept watch, her camera slung over her shoulder in case she needed to document anything. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the distant hum of machinery. As they approached the node, a Vorin patrol appeared, their glowing forms cutting through the haze. Rachel stepped forward, raising her weapon. "I'll distract them," she said firmly. "You three focus on the node." Before anyone could argue, she darted into the open, firing a shot that sent sparks flying. The Vorin turned toward her, their movements eerily fluid. She led them away from the group, weaving between the alien machines as blasts of energy lit up the snow around her. Inside the node's control area, Jason worked quickly, his fingers numb but steady. "I need 2 minutes," he shouted over the chaos outside. Alex guarded the entrance, using whatever he could find to fend off any Vorin who got too close. Emma stayed by Jason's side, helping him connect wires and reroute circuits. Her heart pounded as the sound of fighting grew louder. Finally, Jason slammed his fist on the control panel. "Done. Let's go." They sprinted toward the exit, but Rachel was nowhere to be seen. Just as panic began to set in, she emerged from the swirling snow, blood staining her jacket. "Go," she yelled, urging them forward. "I'm not leaving you behind," Alex shouted back. Rachel gave him a fierce look. "Yes, you are. Get out of here." Reluctantly, they obeyed, running as fast as they could. Behind them, the node exploded in a blinding flash of light, sending shockwaves rippling through the icy terrain. As they reached the safety of their vehicle, none of them spoke. Rachel's sacrifice weighed heavily on their minds, but they knew she had given them a chance to keep fighting. For her, for Earth, and for everyone counting on them. The explosion in Siberia marked a turning point. News of the sabotage spread quickly, thanks to Emma's article detailing the mission and honoring Rachel's sacrifice. Her words struck a chord with people around the world. She gave everything so we could have a future. Let her courage remind us why we fight. The response was overwhelming. Resistance cells formed spontaneously, united by a shared goal: to reclaim Earth from the Vorin. But the cost of their victories weighed heavily on Alex, Emma, and Jason. They had lost Rachel, someone who had become more than just a teammate. She was a friend, a protector, and a symbol of resilience. Each of them carried her memory differently. For Alex, it fueled his determination. For Emma, it brought moments of doubt, wondering if their actions were worth the lives lost. And for Jason, it pushed him to work harder, faster, knowing that every second counted. Back at Jason's basement, the trio pored over new data. The destruction of the Siberian node had disrupted the weather control network, but not permanently. The Vorin were already repairing the damage, deploying additional devices to compensate for the loss. It was clear they couldn't keep playing defense. They needed to strike at the heart of the operation. "We need to hit the mothership," Alex said one evening, breaking the silence. He had been pacing the room, his boots scuffing against the concrete floor. That's where they're controlling everything from. Emma looked up from her laptop, startled. The mothership. That's insane. How are we even supposed to get inside? Jason adjusted his glasses, his eyes narrowing as he thought. It's risky, but it might be our only shot. If we can infiltrate the ship and disable their central system, we could shut down the entire network. Rachel's voice echoed in Alex's mind, her final words urging them to keep going. We don't have a choice, he said firmly. If we don't do this, everything she did will have been for nothing. They spent days preparing, scavenging parts from previous missions to build disguises and tools. Jason hacked into intercepted Vorin transmissions, piecing together blueprints of the mothership. Emma wrote one last article, sharing their plan without revealing too much. This is it, she wrote. Our chance to take back what's ours. Stand with us. On the night of the mission, the air felt thick with anticipation. Dressed in makeshift armor crafted from scavenged alien tech, the three boarded a stolen Vorin transport vessel. Their plan was simple yet perilous. Pose as workers returning to the mothership, locate the control room, and plant explosives to destroy the central system. As they approached the massive craft, its size dwarfed even the largest human-made structures. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, and strange symbols pulsed faintly along its hull. Alex gripped the controls tightly, his knuckles white. Here goes nothing, he muttered under his breath. Once aboard, they moved cautiously through the labyrinthine corridors. The ship was eerily quiet, save for the hum of machinery and the occasional passing Vorin worker. Jason led the way. Consulting a handheld device he'd rigged to mimic the ship's internal systems. Control room is 2 levels up, he whispered. Reaching the door, Alex used a stolen access card to unlock it. Inside, the room was dominated by a massive console glowing with intricate patterns. Jason immediately set to work, connecting his device to the system. I need 5 minutes, he said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Emma kept watch, her heart racing as she scanned the corridor. Suddenly, alarms blared, piercing the silence. We've been discovered, she shouted. Alex grabbed a weapon, ready to hold off any attackers. Hurry, Jason. Sweat dripped down Jason's face as lines of code scrolled across the screen. With seconds to spare, he activated the virus. Done. Let's move. They sprinted toward the exit, explosions rocking the ship behind them. Reaching an escape pod, they launched just as the mothership began to collapse. As they watched the fiery wreckage fall toward Earth, a mix of relief and sorrow washed over them. They had won. For now. But the scars of battle would linger forever. The escape pod hurtled through the atmosphere, its metal frame groaning under the strain of re-entry. Inside, Alex, Emma, and Jason clung to their seats, the adrenaline from their narrow escape still coursing through their veins. The mothership's destruction had been a spectacular sight, fire and debris raining down like a meteor shower, but none of them felt triumphant. The cost of their victory was etched into their faces: exhaustion, grief, and the lingering weight of everything they had sacrificed. When the pod finally landed in a dense forest, the trio stumbled out, their legs shaky from the impact. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, a sharp contrast to the sterile environment of the alien ship. For a moment, they simply stood there, catching their breath and taking in the quiet calm of nature. It felt surreal to be back on solid ground after what they had just endured. We did it, Jason said softly, breaking the silence. His voice was hoarse, but there was a flicker of pride in his eyes. Their system is down. At least for now. Emma nodded, though her expression remained somber. But at what cost? Rachel, and all the others who've lost their lives because of this. Alex clenched his fists, staring at the horizon where smoke from the crashed mothership stained the sky. We didn't start this fight. The Vorin did. All we did was try to protect our home. If we hadn't acted, Earth would already be gone. Jason sighed, rubbing his temples. Still, it doesn't feel like enough. Destroying the control room might have slowed them down, but it won't stop them forever. They'll rebuild, regroup, and come back stronger. Emma frowned, her mind racing. There has to be more we can do. Something we're missing. Back at Jason's basement, they pored over every scrap of information they had gathered during their time aboard the mothership. Jason replayed footage from his handheld device, analyzing fragments of alien text and symbols. He froze when he spotted something, a series of coordinates embedded deep within the ship's data logs. "What's that?" Alex asked, leaning closer to the screen. "I think it's a signal," Jason replied, his brow furrowed. "Something the Vorin sent out before we destroyed the control room. It looks like an invitation." "An invitation," Emma echoed, confused. "To who?" Jason hesitated, scrolling through more data. "Us. Humanity. Decades ago, we started sending signals into space, hoping to make contact with extraterrestrial life. The Vorin intercepted those messages. To them, it wasn't just curiosity, it was permission." Emma's stomach dropped. "So they thought we were inviting them here. That's why they came." Alex slammed his fist against the table. "That's insane. We weren't asking to be invaded. We were just reaching out." Jason shook his head. "Maybe. But to the Vorin, it didn't matter. They saw Earth as fair game. A resource-rich planet with no real defenses." Emma sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the revelation. "All this time, we thought they stumbled upon us by chance. But it was us. We led them here." The room fell silent as the weight of their discovery settled over them. Humanity's own curiosity, its desire to explore the unknown, had brought about its greatest threat. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, Alex broke the silence. "It doesn't matter how they got here. What matters is that we stop them. And if we have to infiltrate another ship, sabotage another operation, or risk everything again, then that's what we'll do." Emma looked up, meeting his gaze. "You're right. This isn't over." "Not yet." Jason nodded, determination hardening his features. "Let's find out where those coordinates lead. Maybe it's a clue to finishing this once and for all." As they began planning their next move, the three of them knew the road ahead would be even harder. But they also knew one thing for certain: humanity's survival depended on them, and they weren't about to give up. The coordinates Jason had uncovered led to a remote location deep in the Pacific Ocean. It wasn't an area marked on any human map. It was far from shipping lanes, fishing zones, or even underwater research stations. The trio knew it couldn't be a coincidence. If the Vorin had sent a signal there, it meant something important was hidden beneath the waves. After days of preparation, they set out on a small submarine Alex had managed to acquire through his connections. It wasn't fancy, just a rusted vessel with enough room for the three of them and their equipment, but it would get the job done. As they descended into the dark waters, the world above faded away, replaced by an eerie silence broken only by the hum of the sub's engines. "This place gives me the creeps," Emma muttered, staring out the porthole at the endless expanse of blackness. Schools of bioluminescent fish darted past, their glowing bodies casting faint shadows across the metal walls. Jason adjusted the navigation system, guiding the sub toward the exact location of the coordinates. "We're almost there," he said, his voice tense. "Whatever this is, it's big." When they arrived, the sight took their breath away. Rising from the ocean floor was a massive structure, a dome-like building made of smooth metallic material that shimmered faintly even in the dim light. Strange symbols etched into its surface pulsed with a soft blue glow, mirroring the design of the Vorin ship. "What is this?" Alex asked, his eyes wide as he studied the structure through the sub's cameras. "I don't know," Jason admitted, typing furiously on his laptop. "But it's definitely alien tech. Maybe some kind of backup system, or a failsafe." Emma frowned. "A failsafe for what?" Before anyone could answer, The sub's sensors picked up movement outside. A group of Vorin emerged from the shadows, their translucent forms glowing brighter in the water. They approached the submarine cautiously, then began attaching cables to its hull. "They're trying to board us," Emma shouted, panic rising in her voice. Alex grabbed a wrench, ready to defend them if necessary. "We need to move. Now." Jason quickly activated the sub's emergency thrusters, propelling them backward just as one of the Vorin attempted to breach the hatch. The sudden burst of speed dislodged the cables, giving them a brief window to escape. "Head for the surface," Alex yelled, gripping the controls tightly. "We can't fight them down here." As they ascended, the Vorin pursued them, their movements swift and precise. The sub shook violently as energy blasts struck its exterior, sending sparks flying inside the cramped cabin. Jason shielded his laptop, ensuring the data they had collected remained safe. "We're not going to make it," Emma cried, clutching the edge of her seat as the water pressure alarms blared. "Hold on," Alex shouted, pushing the sub to its limits. With one final surge, they broke through the surface, gasping for fresh air as sunlight streamed through the portholes. Behind them, the Vorin stopped their pursuit, retreating into the depths. For now, they were safe. Back on land, the trio reviewed the footage and data they had gathered. Jason pinpointed the structure's purpose. It was a relay station, designed to re-establish the weather control network if the mothership was destroyed. But more importantly, it contained information about the Vorin's homeworld, their true origin. "If we can use this to track them back to their planet," Jason said, his voice filled with cautious hope, "we might be able to end this once and for all." Emma nodded, determination replacing her fear. "Then let's finish what we started." Alex clenched his fists, his resolve unwavering. "For Rachel, for Earth, we're taking the fight to them." The final mission was set. Armed with the data from the underwater relay station, Alex, Emma, and Jason had traced the Vorin signal back to their homeworld, a distant planet orbiting a dying star. It was a desperate gamble, but they knew it was their only chance to end the threat once and for all. If they could destroy the source of the Vorin's power, the core system controlling their entire operation, they might stop them from ever targeting Earth again. Using scavenged parts and stolen alien tech, they modified a captured Vorin transport ship to withstand the long journey through space. The vessel wasn't designed for human use, and the controls were unfamiliar, but Jason worked tirelessly to adapt them. "It's not perfect," he admitted as they prepared to launch, "but it'll get us there." Emma stood by the viewport, staring at the stars. Her mind was filled with memories of everything they had been through. The sacrifices, the losses, the moments of hope that kept them going. She thought of Rachel, whose courage had inspired them all, and whispered a silent promise. "We'll make this count." Alex took his place at the helm, gripping the controls tightly. His face was calm but resolute. "Let's do this," he said, his voice steady. With a low hum, the ship lifted off, leaving Earth behind as it soared into the vastness of space. The journey was grueling. Days stretched into weeks as they traveled farther from home than any human had ever gone. The ship's interior grew cold and supplies dwindled, but none of them complained. They focused on the task ahead, knowing what was at stake. When they finally reached the Vorin homeworld, the sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The planet was barren, its surface cracked and scorched, glowing faintly with veins of molten energy. Towering structures loomed in the distance, pulsating with the same blue light as the devices on Earth. It was clear this world was dying, and the Vorin's desperation to exploit other planets made sense now. Disguised in scavenged Vorin armor, the trio infiltrated the central control tower. Inside, the air shimmered with heat, and the walls were lined with intricate machinery. At the heart of the facility was a massive core, a swirling orb of energy that radiated power. Jason immediately recognized it as the hub connecting all the Vorin's operations across the galaxy. "This is it," he said, pulling out his tools. "If we can overload this thing, it'll take out their entire network." Emma kept watch, her weapon ready as Alex helped Jason rig explosives around the core. The tension was palpable. Every second felt like an eternity. Suddenly, alarms blared, and Vorin enforcers flooded the room. "Go!" Alex shouted, stepping forward to hold them off. Energy blasts lit up the chamber as he fought fiercely, buying time for Jason to finish the job. Emma hesitated, torn between helping Alex and ensuring the core was destroyed. "Jason, hurry!" she yelled, firing shots to cover him. With trembling hands, Jason activated the explosives. "Done. Let's go." They sprinted toward the exit, explosions rocking the tower behind them. The ground shook violently as the core began to destabilize. Reaching their ship, they launched just as the planet erupted in a blinding flash of light, consumed by its own destruction. As they watched the fiery remnants fade into the void, a heavy silence settled over the cabin. They had done it. They had struck a fatal blow against the Vorin. But the victory came at a cost. Earth would need years to heal, and the scars of war would linger for generations. Standing on a hill overlooking Chicago weeks later, Alex and Emma reflected on everything they had lost and everything they had saved. Emma wrote one final article. "Earth belongs to us, all of us. Let this be a reminder that no one, not even the stars above, can take that away." As dawn broke, hope returned, fragile but enduring.